Hello, I'm going to start with explaining the concept what this project is all about, what it's about, what you can get out of this project. It's amazing when you are writing code to check other codes. The Ruby linter was very exciting, intriguing, insightful, and at the same time very challenging for me coming up with this code. But at the end, I'm happy because I learned a lot from the code. So in this Ruby linter, I did a few things. It wasn't much, it's not robust, but it's just to identify and buttress the skills I've learned in Ruby as a full-time developer student in Microverse. It's really been an exciting opportunity for me to showcase this. So let's get to the project. So in this project, I've been able to build the different conditions that will test for wrong indentation, trailing spaces, missing or unexpected closing or ending tag, and unexpected or missing and empty line error. So in this readme file, I have outlined what the good code or the bad code looks like in the indentation. Here you see there's a wrong indentation here. The standard is two spaces between the keyword character, mostly like the class, the def. So that's pretty much it for the indentation. When you have a wrong indentation, the error trailing, you see I use the also here to indicate the cursor point. So let's say you have a lot of empty spaces here and the cursor is right here, so it will indicate that there's a trailing space error, so you have to fix that. Unexpected tag, it could be a bracket, it could be one of these parentheses missing, so like here, so or like here, excess of this. So you have unexpected end, so we have more than one end here, so you have an end here, also have an end here, so there's a problem there. Empty line, so you have where you have the empty line spaces here. And also in this project, I went along to do the different test cases for the scenario, testing them with a code. So I had to disable one of the file bug.rb so that I can do the testing while Rubocop doesn't get angry with me. So let's dive into the code and see what we've got. So the first file I did, the first class, is to which handles file reading. So this is where my file is being accepted in, which is then passed to this file path, which is being stored in this class. So I have made error message accessible, file reading accessible, file path, and file count. So line count. So we have all of this, an error message to show in just in case the file name wasn't given or the path wasn't correct. So this error message will pop up. Now I use this because my code is trying to look through this file line, so it wouldn't be nice to look through a file that is a nil or undeclared, like it's a nil class, so it will definitely throw an error. So when this happens, so I automatically set it on an empty array, so in that case it will literally return an empty array instead of a file that does not exist. So let's go to the checks. The checks call in the file reader, and it stores the initialized file reader, which is gotten from this file path, into here, and I use this to save my error messages in an array. And the keywords, I use basic keywords that you have: class, if, case, and the rest of it. So for trailing cases, you have this, so string value dot if the now the file lines are looped, each array, and stores in line. So the first line, if it takes the first line on that array, let's say something like this line, so it takes this line, this is a line, this is a line, this is a line. So it takes each of the line and checks. So minus 1 should be the last element here. Minus 1 should give you the last element. So but when you do -2, you are doing that, you're checking if there is a space here. So if there's a space, that -2, that single just after the last element has a space, and at the same time we're making sure this is not an empty line, of course. So if that happens and this returns true, so we are going to log in an error which saves it right here. So we'll have a trailing white space error. So that's pretty much simple. The indentation, I'll talk about it last because it was really challenging for me. I got it last and I want to talk about it last. It's very exciting. Once I understood the pseudocode, it was really easy for me to implement it. I think first understanding the pseudocode and you'll be good. So the check tab error, what I simply do is I'm counting the tags, I'm counting the number of tags, I'm counting this, I'm counting this, I'm saving them, opening and closing, opening and closing. Now I save them into, I create an open array, close array, then the scan, which I had required here, start scan. So what it does is it scans from line, like from the first line to the last line. It scans through it and checks. I use a regex to check if it matches the tag. So we have this matcher. Where is it? So you have this matcher. If it matches this line, if it matches the open bracket or the closing bracket. So if it matches, it saves them into open. What it does is saves it into this element, this open p. So now I flatten the array and check the size and use the spaceship operator. This spaceship operator, if the left hand side is greater than the right hand side, it returns 1. If the right hand side is greater than the left hand side, it returns -1. But if they are the same, it returns 0. So that's basically it. So that means if one is greater than the other, that means it's something is wrong. They have the opening and closing tag has to match. So if it doesn't, something is wrong. So the same thing happens for the rest of the tag. So the end error is basically the same concept, checking the keyword character that we have and match it in with the end character. So if the keyword character words or reserved words like the class, the def, the if, the do, the when, all this keyword reserved words, so if it doesn't match the number of ends we're having, so we compare the same thing. So we should return there's definitely a missing n, or n is too much. So it's basically the same concept. So the empty line error, this wasn't really perfect, but we're checking like this. So this should be an empty line error because the space here. So if you have a space under the def, that should read an empty line error. So if you have this kind of space, that should be an empty line error. So we're checking, saying if you hit a class, check the next line. Is it empty? What is next for it? If you hit a n, check the up line. Is it empty? Also check if you meet a def and check the up line. What does it mean? If you meet an n, complain. There should be a space between those two. So I also check those ones too. So indentation, the most exciting guy for me, was really exciting. So but the pseudocode is pretty easy of what I did. So we're looking at this, we're looking at taking the first line and checking the number of space that is here. The number of space here is 0, so the keyword is 0. So I move on. Now I save an indentation value. I started with something like current value. Let's see if we have val is equals to 0 times 2. So now when it moves to the next one, whenever I see a keyword, I increase my indentation value by 1, but whenever I see an n, I decrease the indentation value by 1. So my expected value is always current value times the indentation value. So for this one, it turns out that okay, the indent, the space here is 2, right? The empty space here is 2. So our current value will now become, because after this I increase it by 1, so it now becomes 1 times 2. So it checks is this equals to 2. If we look at it, I have a regex file that checks for the spaces until the all the spaces until it finds a character. Then it stops. It calculates the space, and I check the size and I compare it to the expected value. Value here is simply for n case, because you might have situation that you reach this n, right? So, and you had the last one to be maybe 0. There's no need having -2. So if it's 0, let it stay 0. Don't negate -2, except it's like 2 or something, then you -2. So that's just what I did here. So yeah, that's basically it. So here is 4. So by then you must have hit two keyword character 2. So you now have 2 times 2. So it checks 4. It doesn't match 4. Now the same thing happens here. This wasn't a keyword character, so there's no increment. So it still maintains 4. This is like 5. So we should hit a error message here. So that's basically it. So let's go to testing. So the testing I actually use this file to run the test cases for each of the value. So I simply check for trailing cases and try to match the line error on the line spaces I did. I intentionally left errors here so I can use for my RSpec testing. So to run the command, everything is in the main. The main has everything right here, which calls the class, checks for error, and let me quickly run the command. So we could have something like bin/main, then you call the file name bug.rb. So you have line 4, you see line 4, we have indentation 2 space error, this error here. Line 11, extra empty space detected, missing n, I didn't put n here. Okay, square bracket here, trailing white spaces. Line 3 here where the cursor is, and line 1 we have a trailing white space here, and so you see it comes up with the different errors that you see. So if I happen to take out all the error messages, return this and fix back my n, take away trailing space, you see, run that again, you're back to 2. So take away this, run that again, you're back to line 3. Okay, I close that up and we're good, no offense, and that's perfectly fine. So that's basically the whole concept of the project. I hope you like it. I hope to improve upon it after this and work to perfect some of the things that are not really perfect in it, but it's a good head start for me. I love the project. I enjoyed doing it, and it was really stretching for me. So thank you for taking time out.